and welcome to the launch of ROI's CloudSuite webinar series for human capital management. This presentation is entitled The Book of Basics, the HCM Fundamentals, and we're going to cover a number of topics focusing on Infor's CloudSuite HCM, starting with the fundamental of what it is and the key factors to planning a successful implementation. So let's get started. I'm Diana Van Blaricom, ROI's Executive Director of HCM Services, and I'm going to be your host today, walking you through the HCM fundamentals. ROI Healthcare Solutions is a trusted IT partner working with customers over the last almost 20 years, helping customers leverage technologies across their businesses. We offer services around both ERP and other healthcare information systems, including legacy support for some of the outgoing technologies that may still be used in your organization. We offer services and expertise from advisory to implementation, and even providing system experts when you're challenged with managing and staffing a project. ROI Healthcare has been named by Inc. 5000 as one of America's fastest growing private companies and has been awarded as one of modern healthcare's best places to work in healthcare. Today you're going to hear about what our ERP practice is doing specific to the Infor CloudSuite technologies. We have over 100 seasoned veteran professionals to help you take advantage of the new technologies that are changing the way we work at an ever-accelerating pace. We work with a variety of customers, including some non-healthcare organizations, and focus on being their partner in making their business transformation a success. So thanks for spending the next hour with me. We're going to walk you through the components of Infor's CloudSuite HCM and demystify any questions you have about features and functionality. I'm going to share with you some ways that you can start working towards activities that'll make your transition to the new technologies just a little bit easier. And then I'm going to share some ideas for you to start engaging with other people in your organization and begin to socialize how and why you need this transformation. As always, I like to provide some real-world examples, and we'll see if these resonate with what you're facing today. Then, we'll leave you with some ideas on how to get moving forward. Let's start with looking at the big picture. And what I mean by that is that this type of effort is not an IT project. It's something that will be enabled by IT as your partner in success. But this is really about changing the way you do business, especially for human resources. Some of the common themes that I've seen over the years in working with different organizations in varying industries is that HR is the last to get budget for the new sexy technologies. Yet we have the most touch points across the organization. What HR does has an effect on every employee, every manager, and even some people outside our organization, such as applicants, candidates, and customers. In healthcare, it's our ever-precious patient community that relies on their care providers at critical times in their life. Yet we still may be using outdated technologies from disparate systems. This contributes to the loss of talent, especially if our talent pool has the opportunity to go to bigger markets, more prestigious organizations. Well, you get the picture. And it's challenging to understand what talent is available in-house in that disparate landscape. How do you leverage people's skills and abilities if you have no comprehensive way of knowing what they are? And while analytics may be the sexy new thing, you can't get meaningful metrics if you don't have good data and have the data structured properly in the first place. So it all starts with getting your HR programs aligned to those organizational goals and helping those leaders fulfill that strategic vision, creating, building, and contributing to an organization that does substantial, purposeful work. But we can't do that if we're constantly trying to keep up with the data entry and the fire drills when issues arise. So what is the bigger picture then? Well, it starts with the understanding that it's not just about IT anymore. The business owners must have a key stake in driving this transformation, taking a lead position on a project such as this. And then they have to change the way they think. It's not about the tactical day-to-day anymore. While that's still accommodated, the applications and solutions that are mainstream running our organizations today are very end-user facing, customer facing, patient facing. We walk around all day with these devices in our hands, yet we have little expectation for this capability at work. Why is that? It's because we're still bogged down in traditional thinking of systems and services that run our company. So now it's time to take a look at the people, how our worker demographics have changed, the processes, which can now be automated and more efficient with the introduction of better technology, and the platform that's used to enable all of this. Meaning getting out of the system support business and leveraging our friends in IT to help us be progressive HR leaders. That is a key factor and one of the biggest benefits of moving to a SaaS model for your technology solutions. Most organizations are looking to reduce technology expense, provide a better, more improved experience, and really leverage what they get out of their technology. And that means moving away from disparate systems towards an integrated solution. When we have HR data sitting in multiple systems, we never really get to see the bigger picture of what's happening in the organization, to our people, to the talent, all those folks that run our organization. The individuals that touch patients and customers and children in our schools. IT gets involved spending so much time making these systems get bits and bytes and pieces of data from each other that they never really have the opportunity to provide strategic value, such as serving up those meaningful metrics and analytics that allow the leadership team to understand what's really happening across our departments, to get out ahead of trends and problems and feel confident in their decision making. You have to look across all HR disciplines and see how the technology will impact the processes in each area. How can you leverage the technology to improve the level of HR service you provide to the organization? In other words, asking the question, what is the value to the business? For your core HR system, it's about understanding where people work, what they do, ensuring they are safe and productive. For recruiting and onboarding, and this HR discipline is so important to our healthcare organizations, it's about finding the right people and getting them to be excited about joining our organization and really getting and keeping them engaged. We hear a lot about onboarding, and the mistake that most HR leaders make is thinking that onboarding engagement is a new hire activity. But I challenge you to think bigger. Think about the touch points and engagement opportunities to interact with those individuals after 30 days, 90 days, 6 months, 1 year. How can you leverage the technology to keep them engaged and excited to be part of your organization? Well, there are some new features in global HR and talent management that help to facilitate these multiple touch points. And that's really where our more advanced HR disciplines come into play. Getting them in the door is one hurdle, but how do we make sure that people stay? Especially if you're in a competitive market area, a rural location, you might have other retention challenges. This is where the learning and development programs play a key role. Setting meaningful goals that drive both the initiatives and the individual forward. And remember, goals are about motivation. Performance is the look back, and compensation is the way that we reward them for good behavior. Performance and competency management lets us focus on what individuals thrive at, and let's face it, not everyone's good at everything, and that's okay. As long as we leverage their talent, then we can help them grow in other areas. But first, we have to have visibility into what that is. With benefits and compensation, that lets us reward people. And finally, what I refer to as the nirvana of HR is having processes and programs in place to build our future leaders, getting them in the door, finding their expertise, and leveraging that for the greater good of our customers, our patients, our teachers, or whatever industry you serve. Now that you understand where we're headed, let's see if we can demystify what exactly Infor CloudSuite HCM brings to the table. And while we're doing this, think about the other systems you may be currently using to support your HR programs. There may be many, and each of those comes at a cost. A recurring license and maintenance fee, as well as the internal expense of integration and support for all of that. Here's a wide view of what's included with CloudSuite HCM. We're going to look at these a little closer in a minute, but as you can see, the features and functions are wide and deep, and that's the difference here. Deep, industry-focused functionality in an integrated database. When you look at the core piece of what the heart and soul of what we do in human resources, it's really this piece here. It's global HR, talent management, and then of course having a good learning management to support the growth, right? So it's having that global employee record, the position budget management in line with what we're doing with recruiting. We've got employee relations, the grievance and disciplinary pieces of that, occupational health, being able to have positions and know exactly what vaccinations are required by position. Safety management, of course, making sure that our workers are safe and doing our OSHA filings, and then benefits and absence. And the new piece here, the really powerful piece here, is transition management, where we can do the onboarding, the cross-boarding, and the offboarding. And that's how we keep people engaged too. Onboarding is when you are new, cross-boarding, maybe you're just new to a role. Really good things there to keep people engaged and get them up to productivity quicker. On the talent management side, we've got talent acquisition, the pre-boarding pieces of talent transition management, your background check authorization, those types of activities, compensation management, goals, performance, and then of course development and succession. On the LMS side, this is where we provide the content, learning, the courses and tracks to make sure that we are continuing to develop people. Another piece here that comes into play, not only from a benefits compare feature and benefits management, but also being able to truly step into a shared services model in your organization and using the knowledge base and case management to support that. So if you stand up a shared services organization, what can we put on that employee portal to help people find things in more of a self-service model? And if they do need a little help, they can submit a case online, right? Everyone's used to doing that nowadays. And the third piece here would be talent science, your assessments, your behavioral assessments. So if you think of talent acquisition and your job and position definition of how you look on paper, then the talent science piece is your natural tendencies and behaviors, and marrying those two together, we know exactly how to move you forward in our organization and really truly leverage your talents. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff here. So where do you start? Well, the reality is you have to start with the basics. Get started focusing on doing the basic fundamentals well, and that's your global HR stack. But as we mentioned before, you also need to look at the bigger picture here. And another point of view is who's going to be affected by changing the software and the processes and the procedures. So when you're looking at your roadmap from that perspective, oftentimes in healthcare, we see some of the talent components in the first phase. That way you gain a big return on your investment by updating your recruiting process across the board, creating a contemporary onboarding experience, and firming up the confidence and integrity in the data and transaction processing, moving from the front lines out into having the managers initiate transactions and then running them through for HR approval. This is where we create a foundation of transformation, starting with the basic processes and utilizing the new technologies to move everyday data changes faster and more accurately. Getting HR out of the data entry business and into a strategic shared services mode that truly helps an organization function better, stronger, and more efficiently, and make everyone more productive along the way, especially those frontline managers and employees who are patient-facing or customer-facing or student-facing, right? Unburden them from those time-consuming processes and those paper forms. So what exactly does that mean? Well, let's break it down a little bit. Here are some ideas of what you can expect when you focus on the transformation and change your perspective on this endeavor. When you talk about aligning processes across the organization, we can eliminate disparate systems and standardize those processes. So getting people up to speed and learning new things when they step into new roles, having those standard processes, we know exactly what it is we need to teach them. We're going to link HR and payroll and enforce those budget controls to control costs, cut down on our contract spend. And then, of course, with that comes the reduction of compliance and risk issues because we do have some standards in place. We're going to get rid of those manual processes, those disparate databases, all those hidden access databases and spreadsheets that y'all have. You'll still be able to use some of that, but we want to make sure we get some better tools in your hands so that you don't have to use those disparate databases. And really, we're talking about reducing the cost of HR, and that's, every time you touch a keyboard and it takes you 20 minutes to do something, time is very valuable, and time is money. So we want to be able to enable self-service as much as we can, get some good routing and approvals in place, and then reduce the turnover by understanding what's going on with that data. And in really leveraging those technologies, we're going to derive some additional cost savings by moving to that tiered approach for for HR service delivery. So moving into a shared services model where you can really spend the quality HR time on more of the issues instead of, looking things up or chasing down forms. And at the end of it, it comes down to being able to really truly have good metrics, good analytics, good data to be able to make decisions, and then strive for an outcome-driven culture where we have good data, we make good decisions, and people are just getting things done, right? Who doesn't love to have good accomplishments? And these are all very doable given the right processes enabled with good technology. So now that you're all excited about what a change like this could mean, let's talk about a few things that you can do well in advance of an actual project starting. These are things that you will need to do anyway, and some of these things you may already have, and it's just a matter of gathering them up. The first question people ask is, what's the roadmap? Don't know? Well, this is critical. You have to determine your priorities to determine your roadmap. And it starts with understanding where your organization is headed. What's the strategic vision for your company? What are your executives thinking? What are their priorities for the next few years? For most organizations, this goes back to reviewing your current mission, vision, and values. Don't have those? Can't find them? Read the annual report. Check your website. You can find all kinds of information on the strategic direction of your organization if you just know where to look. It's key and critical to creating the roadmap, and it's the basis of your business case and how you're going to ask for budget. The most important part of this whole endeavor is truly understanding your requirements going into the setup and configuration of your new software. Granted, people are getting paid and checks are correct today, right? So something's working. Although your team might be moving a mountain to get this done, and it becomes a monumental effort to accomplish this. And that's where the golden nuggets of savings are. Saving time, saving effort, all equals money. Time is money. And for our HR processes, every time we have to send a transaction back for more information, incorrect data, or multiple levels of unnecessary approvals, it's costing the company money. And it's probably frustrating a few people along the way too. So this, my friends, is the big win. Take the time to do the analysis of how you're currently doing things today, look at the steps in the process, and understand what's really happening versus what's supposed to be happening, because sometimes that's a very different story. You're doing what you need to do to get the job done, and again, sometimes it's a hurdle. Improving inefficient, ineffective processes is the huge win here, and we can now use automated routing and approval to move these transactions along. Eliminate the waste, the wasted time, the wasted effort, increase productivity, and get people focused on what matters. And for healthcare, that's patient care. Not filling out an endless stack of paper forms followed by tracking down the black hole of mystery as to where it is in the approval process, right? Outside of work, we live in this world of instant gratification. And it's all about time that we live up to modernizing our HR organizations. If you're in an organization that has grown through mergers and acquisitions, you know the mess this can create. And while it's nice to say to those coming into the company that, oh, you won't feel the effects of the transition, the reality is someone needs to drive the bus. And that means leadership needs to drive home the message that the processes will be the same across the organization so that everyone understands what to do and how to manage it. It's the only way to reduce the operational expenses across the board. In HR, if you haven't already moved to a shared services model, it might be time to start working in that direction. Most likely finance, supply chain, and IT are already there. And you've got to work efficiently and effectively in order to drive down the cost of HR while still delivering that level of service. And that comes to knowing what to centralize and what to locally support. The last piece I want to mention here is about aligning your HR programs. Oftentimes through growth, organizations inherit multiple benefit plans, multiple time off plans, multiple compensation plans, right? Start working towards consolidation and standardization for these, because changing policies may take longer than you think. And if you get it done, or at least started, it won't cause potential delays as you get into the middle of your project. So let's talk about our reports, interfaces, conversions, extensions, customizations, all of these things that you have going on today. In this case, Excel is your friend. You need to gather a list of all the reports, interfaces, the systems that data will be converted from, and other extensions that may be impacted as part of this project. If you've gone through an upgrade recently, you may already have this. If not, you need to get someone tasked with owning it and get it moving today. For reports, be sure to list the title of the report, provide a brief description, identify who generates it, how often, who's it distributed to. All key factors in understanding if this report is provided in the system and whether it will need to be recreated. Or sometimes it's discovered that we're not really using it anymore and someone just keeps sending it out every time and the recipients just keep shoving it in a drawer. Some of you are probably smiling a little bit right now. For interfaces, IT should be able to assist in creating a diagram of the data flow and identifying the important export points of data in systems. If the interfaces haven't been maintained and updated in a while, it might be time to reach out to the vendor or other system softwares to ensure that you have a current file spec, and in the event the interface remains as part of that total technical landscape, you're going to want to make sure you have the latest file layout that you're using. The C here stands for conversions, and this one can cause a lot of heartburn. You'll need to identify the system of record for key data elements. Where is the data coming from, and what format will it need to move into the CloudSuite structure? And there's everyone's favorite topic of historical data, right? So, or as I often refer to as the hysterical data, because many times there's a lot of emotion around what users want to keep, and they want to keep it all, and they need every bit and byte. Use the regulatory requirements as your guideline, right? Then determine how much and how often you really use that data. What shape it's in, is it clean? Sometimes it's best to leave the old data behind, just making sure that it's accessible if needed in an easy to retrieve format. So if we do get into an audit, litigation, reporting need, we can get at it. It can be as simple as a PDF to make it searchable, or as complex as a data repository or cloned instance of a relational database to be able to get at. There should be a lot of discussion around this and also some voice of reason. So the more data, the more money you will spend on getting that data into the system, and it may not bring high value. You may also need to bring over bad setup, junk setup, in order to facilitate bringing in that history, which again may not bring high value. The E here is for extensions. These are things that extend the capabilities of your current systems. Custom workflow, customized screens, maybe using Design Studio back in the day. Those other items that extend the use of the current system. Now, on the subject of customizations, these can be a giant expense to build and maintain. And any current customizations, you need to understand the reason and the purpose and have that documented and discussed. In the new world order of cloud, customizations are not allowed. In reality, a lot of times we discover that no one really knows why something was done a certain way, or the organization has outgrown it, but since it was there, no one questions it. This alone can be a big driver of standardization and efficiency gain for your organization. It may be that the requirement is accommodated in a new feature set, so the customization isn't even needed anymore. Either way, it needs to be reviewed. Just because you've always done it that way doesn't make it right. And those are the 7 most expensive words in business, by the way, because we've always done it that way. Start with the basics on a spreadsheet with input from the end users and build it all there. This can become your working document once you start your project, and you can edit and update the format and content along the way. It's an easy to use tool that everyone understands, and it's very simple to keep. Okay, so let's talk about the skills that you're going to need to do a project like this. This is one of the single most important aspects of a project, is determining who your core project team members are going to be. Folks, this is not the new Island of Misfit Toys, where you put people you don't know what to do with. This is the #1 reason projects fail. Not having the right people to make decisions and drive change across the organization almost ensures that your product will fail. You need the folks with tribal knowledge of the organization. They will need to be well organized, able to communicate to various levels in the organization, and they need to be empowered. You'll have key roles from Infor on the cloud services side. You'll have your project team from ROI leading the way, but the day-to-day tasks and efforts on the project need to be executed by your team. So I urge you to start considering who might be the person to fill each role. You may need to backfill their regular position while they're working on this project, and please do not expect them to still do their day job while doing full-time project work. This will ultimately contribute to your turnover statistics. So plan accordingly and pick the right individuals to make up your team. So how do you start to socialize a project of this magnitude? How can you begin to uncover what's going on in your organization? Let's take a look at some topics and how you can engage with those business owners. You have to get into the heads of your leadership team and understand their point of view. Look through their lens. Perspective is everything when it comes to getting people on board for this type of effort. In a recent report by Louis Goncalves in April of 2018, he identifies the top challenges that CEOs face this year. And if you look at this list, it's everything we've already been discussing here and helping you put a plan and a roadmap together. But here's what's on their minds. And the HR and technology leaders that are prepared with answers to these questions are the ones who will move their transformation efforts forward. If you can answer these questions with a focus on these 6 items, you'll get your project and your budget approved. Now let's take a look at how you build traction among the masses. Start asking these questions to your HR teams, your managers, and even the IT support teams. Start the conversation. Find out what people are struggling with, what ideas they have to improve processes and work more efficiently and effectively. Start with recruiting. Talk about how you get people into the organization. You might be surprised that the majority of people know there's a better way. They just don't know how to get there. Now let's take a look at a real-world example and some of the change that happens as a result of this effort. I want to introduce you to a large children's hospital organization that we're working with. These guys needed to move to becoming a talent-driven organization, and they were struggling to do it with their current processes. But to complicate matters, their technology was so out of date that support and maintenance was heading for retirement. You can see here that through our planning and assessment efforts, we were able to identify key points of improvement that people in the organization will understand and can relate to. We now have one version of the truth when it comes to employee data, which is huge in understanding the talent, where they work and what they do. The level of service the HR team can provide to the organization increases with self-service capabilities, and the managers now have tools and visibility to sit down and have the career development conversations with their teams. But what it's really about are the benefits to running the business, the operational side of change. Standardizing processes so it's easier to train people, they know what to expect, and now we can report on the data with standard metrics and information. We won't have data changes taking longer because of incomplete information or data entry errors. Those are all reduced. Updated position profiles start that path towards that nirvana of true succession management. And ultimately, our patients and customers are getting better care because people aren't distracted with the inefficient processes, bad data, and the aftermath of trying to get support when someone needs HR assistance. The fundamental basics of day-to-day operations are well executed. So how do we get you started down this path? You're going to need some help. And if you're already thinking that this is a big deal, well, you're right. But in order to affect change and truly improve what's going on in your company and improve the bottom line, you have to start here. So let's take a look at an optimal, perfect world roadmap and see how you fit in. When you're creating your roadmap, you need to plan out the implementation, and don't underestimate the change management that will need to occur. Remember, we're going to touch people potentially multiple times because this is HR, so keep that perspective in mind. You also want to consider any existing third-party applications, so solutions that are non-Infor. If you're going to replace them, make a list of their license expiration dates. This will be a critical piece of information in planning out your roadmap. Everything you do falls into these 3 categories. It affects how patients or customers, it affects our finances, and it affects people in your organization. So keep that perspective when planning your roadmap components. The patients, the finance, the people. Here you can see that we've mapped out the various components based on product dependency, how to best incorporate the change across the organization, and then maximizing the technology investment. Your roadmap may have a few nuances to it based on priority, current challenges, and those third-party licenses, but this will give you a good start at planning on how your roadmap should fit together. One of the key factors in determining your roadmap are things like your performance management period, your compensation plan year, your fiscal year, your payroll year, all the pieces of information that go into planning. And if you have any critical fails on any of these specific areas. But when that's all said and done, the foundation of basics is this group here in the red box. And this is where you gain the most return on your investment, find immediate cost savings, and reduce time and effort while improving HR services to the field. But once your implementation of phase 1 is complete, it's not over. Oh no, this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of transforming your pay-for-performance programs, enhancing and connecting the learning efforts, and marching towards that goal of reaching HR nirvana. You have the tools and capabilities to continue to monitor and improve processes. You'll be operating efficiently. You'll see processes, people, and technology continue to drive change. It becomes contagious when you become a well-run organization. And when the CEO walks up to you in the hallway and says, "Are we ready for the future of this organization?" you can confidently smile and say, "Yes, we are, and here's how we're going to get there." I want to thank you all for joining me today. And if you'd like to explore preparing your transformation, or you'd like to discuss your potential roadmap, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And stay connected via our website. We have more learning and educational webinars to come. Our industry experts on finance and supply chain management are putting together webinars as well, and can assist you with your CSF roadmap planning. Be sure to check out our blog and our other resources at www.roihs.com.